Let's dive right into one of history's biggest mysteries. Was Atlantis, the world's most famous lost city, actually a real, tangible place? You know the legend. A paradise-like metropolis rising from the waves, boasting unbelievable technology and wealth, right at a time when the rest of humanity was barely figuring out how to light a fire in a cave. But is it just a myth, or is there a historical reality buried somewhere down there in the dark?
It really comes down to this. What if this incredibly famous myth was actually a true story of nature's wrath? Could a civilization so advanced that they built literal palaces on the waves truly vanish in just 24 hours? Plato claimed this shining global superpower was completely swallowed by the sea in a single day and night of catastrophic destruction. Sounds like pure fiction, right? Like a Hollywood blockbuster. But what if we approach this not as a fairy tale, but as a distorted memory of a real-world apocalypse?
Part 1. The Underwater City. To figure this out, we actually don't start with the myth at all. We start with a hard, undeniable fact discovered beneath the glass-clear waters of Greece. Back in 1967, a young scientist named Nicholas Fleming was diving, just 10 or 12 feet deep off the coast. He wasn't hunting for gold or anything, just studying nature. But beneath the sand, he spotted perfectly straight lines. And, well, nature doesn't build in straight lines. After brushing away thousands of years of dust, he uncovered stone walls, paved streets, courtyards, and tombs. He had stumbled upon Pavlopetri, a completely submerged city that thrived around the exact same time as the great Indus Valley civilization.
The really staggering part? This underwater city was 5,000 years old. And these weren't just simple mud huts either. We're talking two-story houses and water drainage systems so brilliantly modern they genuinely baffle engineers today. It was an incredibly advanced, hygienic society. And when geologists studied the seabed, they found that the city didn't just slowly sink over time. A massive earthquake violently ruptured the earth, sending the entire settlement underwater in the absolute blink of an eye.
Part 2. Plato's Mysterious Atlantis.
Now, if a bustling city like Pavlopetri could be instantly swallowed by an earthquake, Plato's grand tale of Atlantis suddenly feels a whole lot more plausible, doesn't it? But Plato wasn't just talking about a city. He described a massive global superpower. And here's where we hit a bizarre historical paradox. Plato claimed Atlantis existed 11,500 years ago. The problem, that was literally the end of the Ice Age. Historically speaking, humans were still living in caves, hunting with stones. How could a gleaming city of advanced engineering exist before we even invented basic farming? This timeline glitch is exactly why historians believe the numbers were just mistranslated, as the story was handed down from Egypt to Greece over generations. I mean, Plato claimed they achieved absolutely unbelievable engineering feats. He described Atlantis as an island situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call Gibraltar. It was built in 5 perfect concentric rings, 3 of water, 2 of land, kind of like the layers of an onion. They engineered a massive canal, 300 feet wide and 100 feet deep, so ships could sail right into the city center. Even wilder, they had hot and cold running water pumped directly into their homes from natural springs and a grand temple of Poseidon with an ivory roof detailed in gold and silver, all while the rest of the world was basically primitive.
And they didn't stop at silver and gold. They coated their outer walls in a mysterious, incredibly precious metal called orichalcum. Plato described it as the second most valuable substance on Earth at the time. Modern scientists actually suspect it was a lost, specialized alloy of copper, zinc, and gold. When the sunlight hit those walls, Plato said the entire city glowed fiery red, like a burning torch you could see from miles away.
Part 3. The Minoan Connection.
So historians believe Plato wasn't just hallucinating these wild details. He was actually describing a real-world empire that had simply been lost to time. Just look at how perfectly the mythical clues map onto the real-life Minoan civilization. Plato wrote that Atlantis was circular and built with red, black, and white stones. Well, the Minoan island of Thera, which you probably know as Santorini, was originally a perfectly circular volcanic island, and its ruins built from exact matches of those 3 specific colors of volcanic rock. The craziest part is the bull ritual. Plato described Atlanteans catching bulls bare-handed without iron weapons. Minoan ruins are literally covered in frescoes showing young men and women leaping over massive charging bulls in a ritualistic display of raw courage. It matches perfectly.
Far from being a primitive tribe, this society was incredibly progressive. The Minoans were essentially the world's first true maritime superpower, trading all the way out to Egypt and Mesopotamia. They were highly organized into a 3-tier society of farmers, soldiers, and rulers. Oh, and Plato mentioned the Atlanteans eating a bizarre hard-shelled fruit containing sweet water and oil. Historians now realize he was almost certainly describing a coconut, proving their trade routes were massive. And on top of that, Minoan women enjoyed incredible independence, acting as highly respected priestesses and athletes.
And the political structure? Spot on. Plato wrote that Atlantis wasn't a democracy, but a vast confederacy ruled by 10 kings under a supreme leader, King Atlas. Well, archaeologists excavating the island of Crete revealed multiple, interconnected Minoan palace networks, like the famous Knossos, that mirror this exact, decentralized but highly organized power structure. The parallels are just too precise to be a coincidence.
Part 4. Destruction and Nature's Wrath. But of course, no golden age lasts forever. The end of this magnificent empire was swift and absolutely terrifying. The progression of their downfall is fascinating to look at. Plato tells us Atlantis started off as a utopia. Kings ruled with truth and justice, ignoring greed. But over generations, human hubris took over. As the Minoans became an aggressively wealthy sea empire, they got obsessed with expansion, invading neighboring lands in Europe and North Africa. They became completely blinded by their own wealth and power, ultimately setting the stage for their sudden, absolute destruction.
So how did it end? In the myth, Plato framed the destruction as the god Zeus unleashing his wrath, punishing their arrogance by sinking Atlantis in a single day and night of earthquakes and fire. But the scientific reality is honestly even more dramatic. Around 1600 BC, the Thera volcano on Santorini erupted. This was one of the most violent volcanic events in human history. It literally blew the center of the island completely out, burying nearby cities in thick ash and collapsing the circular island straight into the churning sea.
The aftermath was apocalyptic. The collapse of the volcano triggered a colossal 100-foot tsunami. Think about that, a wall of water as high as a 10-story building. It instantly snapped the mighty Minoan naval fleet like dry twigs and swallowed their majestic coastal cities whole before anyone sleeping in their beds could even open their eyes. The empire was quite literally wiped off the map.
The big takeaway here is that Plato was acting as a philosopher, not a strict historian. He took this incredibly traumatic, real-world destruction of the Minoans and weaponized it into a powerful moral lesson. When a civilization becomes blinded by the intoxication of power and challenges the laws of nature, its end is certain. He used their tragic fate to warn the corrupt, power-hungry politicians of his own era about the severe dangers of hubris.
Part 5. Unsolved Mysteries of the Sea.
Now, even though the Minoan theory is incredibly strong and widely accepted by modern experts as the real inspiration for Atlantis, the ocean refuses to give up all of its ghosts. We've deeply explored a mere 5% of our planet's oceans. Let that sink in. 95% of the underwater world is entirely unexplored, sitting in complete darkness. Who knows what else is resting down there in the deep?
I say that because we are still finding things across the globe that totally rewrite the history books. Take the Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan, discovered in 1987. Divers found massive, 90-degree stone steps and platforms that look completely man-made, dating back 10,000 years to the end of the Ice Age. Or look at the Bimini Road in the Bahamas, out in the Atlantic. It's a series of massive underwater limestone blocks, aligned perfectly like a submerged ancient highway. Are these just weird natural geological formations, or remnants of other lost chapters of human history?
As we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this thought. Nature always, eventually, reclaims what it builds. Whether it's the legend of Atlantis, the real sunken streets of Petri, or bizarre stone steps off the coast of Japan, the waters are holding on to our past. So, what forgotten local legends, ancient structures, or sunken secrets might be hiding right in the lakes, rivers, or coastlines in your own backyard? The truth is out there, just waiting beneath the surface. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep questioning the history we think we know.